guys! So in today's video I'm gonna be telling you all the books that I read in June and the books that I hopefully will end up reading in July. I think so far this month has been the month that I've read the most books in, which is amazing. I'm so happy I'm finally reading books again, but I read 9 books. Sounds like a lot, and there's something that I will have to tell you when I get there. 9 books actually doesn't sound like that much coming from a booktuber. It kind of sounds like not that much, but I don't care. 9 books is the most that I've read in a month so far this year, and I'm very happy with that. First book I read was Better Than the Movies. I gave this a 4.5 stars. It follows Liz and Wes, and they're childhood friends. They grew up together, except they're kind of like childhood enemies. They're in like the same friend group, but he always annoyed her. And they're next door neighbors. Her mom passed away, and her mom was a romantic. They watched a lot of romance movies together, so in honor of her and her mom watching romance movies, she wants to find the perfect prom date, and Wes, of course, helps her. He helps her get closer to this guy that was in their friend group when they were younger that comes back in town. Things happen, feelings happen, obviously. I love this. I love the characters. I'm ready for the second book, but also I'm scared because apparently they end up breaking up and it's a second chance romance is their second book. Scared of that. It was like a perfect, happy, fluffy romance. It was almost exactly like a romance movie feeling, and I loved that. Next, I read Five Survive by Holly Jackson. I gave this 4 stars. She literally sleeps on her back. Ignore Coco in the background. Anyways, this book follows 6 people and they're on a road trip for spring break and they're driving. It's a very long drive. It's like 10 hours or something like that. And they go and they're in this town, no signal, barely anybody, like the forest, and then they go to a dead end and they go to turn around and their tire pops. They fix it, go to leave, all tires are popped. So they can't get out, they're stuck. And then they come to find out that there's someone in the forest hunting them basically because one of them has a secret that they want, and they said that everyone else can go if that person says their secret, and then obviously they want to kill that person. So obviously 5 survive. It was very good. It took some turns that I wasn't expecting, and honestly not in the best way. Like, it was almost so far-fetched that I never would have guessed the plot twist, so it was like unrealistic. But it was a very creepy feeling that I got when I was reading it, and I did enjoy it. I liked the vibe, even though it was like a creepy vibe. I wanted like kind of a thriller book, and this is a young adult, so it wasn't that bad, and I would recommend it if you want a young adult thriller if you haven't read this already. Next, I read Twisted Love by Anna Huang. This book had me giggling and kicking my feet. It was so everything that I wanted it to be. It was almost like Wattpad vibes of like I'll kill anyone that touches you, but in a good way. There were some scenes where it was like kind of cringe, which is why it wasn't a 5 star for me. I think I gave this a 4.75, but I would honestly settle on a 4.5 for this book, sitting on it after a bit, because I read this in my 24-hour video, and I think in the video I said 4.75, but now that it's been a while and I've had some sleep, I would say 4.5 for this book. This follows Alex and Ava. It's brother's best friend, so her brother leaves and he wants someone to look over her, so he calls in Alex, his best friend, to live in his old house and watch over her, which is next to her house. So they're neighbors, brother's best friend, and he's kind of the definition of like morally gray. In the beginning he really doesn't talk to anybody, has no emotions for the longest time, but then starts to form them for her and shows them. And halfway through the book I was like, wow, this is going so good. Like, I'm scared to read the rest because it could end right there. And then the whole second half of the book takes a big turn. So it's a romance book, but it has its own plot twist that doesn't revolve around the romance itself, if that makes sense. And I love that, but I do recommend this, and I will most definitely be reading the rest of the Twisted series. Next is where I said I was going to talk about this. Now, I counted these books as individual books. You can read them as one whole book, or you can read them as different books, 5 books in one series. I read them as 5 separate books, and that is the Mindfuck series. If you've watched my channel for a while, you know, like way back, it was actually in June when I read the first 2, like 2 or 3 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago, but I never finished it. I don't know why, but I reread the first 2 and I finished it. I read all 5. Literally 5 star series. It was so good. It honestly, I feel like that book brought me out of my slump more than the books in the video I filmed about my slump. Just because I literally stayed up until like 4 a.m. one night and I wasn't even filming. I just stayed up because I genuinely couldn't put it down. I finished the 3rd and the 4th book in one night. That's the night I stayed up late, and I started the 5th one and I got halfway through it. I literally love this series. I think the first 3 I gave 4 stars. The 4th and the 5th one I gave 5 stars. Anyways, I haven't even told you guys what it's about, but it follows Lana, and she's a serial killer, and she kills all these men that has to do with her past because something traumatic happened to her. And one day she meets Logan, which is an FBI agent, and of course he's on her case. So they form a connection. She's obviously still killing and he is working on the case. There's other cases he's working on in the first 2 books. I think it's the first 2. If you do read them separately, they focus on another one of his cases that he's working on, and then the last 3 books focuses more on Lana's case. series. And yeah, it's so amazing. I loved everything about it. I cried. I was angry. I would check the trigger warnings though, just because there is some very traumatic things. Obviously follows a serial killer and plus her past they do talk about, so I would check trigger warnings, but 5-star series. I loved it. And then last night I also read Heartstopper Volume 5. This is a graphic novel, so the Mindfuck series, 5 novellas kind of, counts as 5 books or counts as 1, and then this is a graphic novel, so it doesn't take as long to read as another book. So that's why I got to read 9 books this month. Just the end of the month was a great reading month. I gave this 4 stars. I think I gave one of the other ones 5 stars, but just because I haven't read those books in a while and I haven't watched the show in a while, I wasn't as connected to them as I was before. So I feel like that's the only reason why I gave it 4 stars, because I think one of the other ones I gave 5 stars. But I think it's an overall 5-star series just because of the stuff that they talk about, plus it's also like happy and deals with serious topics. It's so amazing. Even if you don't like graphic novels, I think that you should still pick these up. Anyways, this follows Nick and Charlie, and if you haven't read any of the Heartstopper series, you should. It's so heartwarming. And then in this book and the past 2, I think, it really focuses on some of the struggles that Nick and Charlie are going through with future plans and relationship things, and this one mainly focused on those 2 things. I read it in one sitting like I usually do these books because they're graphic novels. And yeah, that concludes all of the 9 books. I'm counting it as 9 books. Doesn't matter what you count it as. I'm counting it as 9 books. I don't care. Anyways, now we'll get on to my July TBR. Today is July 1st, and I'm going to start off with the book that I'm actually reading at the moment, and that is The Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune. I've only read this much, and I'm reading it for a video coming up. This follows Lucy and Felix. It is a best friend's brother trope. Basically, her and her friend were going on a getaway to her friend's hometown. Her friend's flight gets delayed or something like that, and she gets there and meets this guy, and they hook up and they spend a night together. And then that's when they realize that that's actually her best friend's brother, and he realizes that's his sister's best friend. And it's a past and present timeline. So you get 5 years ago of whenever they first hooked up, and then you get now of whenever something happens the last year, but we don't know yet. I don't know yet. And you're trying to figure that out because now they're kind of distant, but they still have that chemistry connection whenever they're around each other. And there's also something going on with Bridget because she's getting married and she ran away back to her hometown right before her wedding. I don't know. I haven't figured that stuff out yet, but I am definitely more interested in this book than I was in her first book, Every Summer After. I think that it's a perfect summer book, and I really like the idea of the best friend's brother trope of how it happened. Anyways, definitely gonna finish this month. Next is Wild Love by Elsie Silver. This is a single dad cowboy romance, and that's honestly all that I know. I know that people have given this 5 stars, and the cover is so cute. I had to get it. I haven't read Flawless or any more in that series, but I still really want to read this. And the second book is already coming out this year, and I think they were both released. They're both gonna be released in the same year, which is crazy. But I definitely want to read this and pick this up because I genuinely think that I'm going to absolutely love it. And I feel like it's perfect for summertime too. Next is Funny Story by Emily Henry. The only thing that I really know about this is I think it's fake dating, and I think that, hold on, I have to read. I don't want to sound dumb. Okay, yeah, I was right. It follows, wait, hold on, I didn't get their name. It follows Daphne and Miles, and they were both in a relationship. They got broken up with by their partners, and now their exes are together because their exes were childhood lovers or something like that. So now they're fake dating to get back at them, and then obviously starts to grow more connection. I think that Sarah Caroli said this, I could be wrong, but I know some booktuber said it, that Miles in this book reminds them of Nick from New Girl, and that's when I just knew that I had to read it. I was already gonna read it because it's Emily Henry. Everyone loves her books. I love her books. Banter, amazing. Beach read, 6-star book for me. The mention of Nick from New Girl being potentially like Miles, our main guy in this book, I just know I'm gonna love it, and I really like the plot, so I'm definitely planning on picking this up this month. Now those are the main romance summary books. Now I'm getting on to some fantasy books or other genres that I want to read this month, and this is A Curse for True Love by Stephanie Garber. I've read the first 2 to this. Once Upon Why did I just sound like a chicken? Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. The Ballad of Never After was a 6-star book for me, literally so good, but I was just scared to pick this up just because I heard mixed reviews about it, and I just wanted to keep the image of the last book so high up there. But I do want to see what happens. I do want to read this. I know that there will be good parts. Even if it's not a 5-star, I still think that it will be a really good read just because I love the world and the characters. And the last physical book that I want to read that I have is Saving Six by Chloe Walsh. I've read Binding 13, Keeping 13, 6-star books for me. I definitely want to finish the series. series, but at the same time I don't. But I want to make a reading vlog video on Saving 6 and Redeeming 6. Let me know if you guys want me to include Taming 7 in the comments if y'all want to see that. And also let me know if you do want spoilers. I don't know how I would make it without spoilers, but I did my Binding 13 reading vlog and it included spoilers, and I had comments saying that they really wanted the rest of the series in a reading vlog, so I really do want to get to that this month because I want to get back in this world. But I also know, I'm pretty sure that this book is so painful because it goes over what happened in the first two in Joey's point of view. And Joey and his girlfriend, I don't know how to pronounce her name. Aoife, I think? I'm not sure. It's spelled weird and there's name pronunciations in the beginning of each books, but I know that they go through some really heartbreaking things together, and I was just scared to read about them because I know I'm gonna cry. And last, on my July TBR, this July TBR I'm not making it too stressful or overambitious just because I have been in the reading slump for like the first half of the year. But Reckless by Lauren Roberts. This comes out tomorrow and I'm literally waking up and going there right whenever Barnes opens just so I can get the exclusive Barnes & Noble edition. I didn't order it online just because I want to have the feeling of going in the store and buying it. When I tell you guys, don't talk to me for the next 24 hours after I get it because I will be reading that, and I am probably the most excited for a book I've ever been because by the time I do end up reading a book, all of the books have already come out in the series, so I don't have that like feeling of excitement for the release date. They're usually all out, but I am so excited for Reckless. It follows Peyton and Kai, and if you haven't read Powerless already, what are you doing? Powerless and Powerful both made me cry. Best tropes. The amount of little tropes that it had in Powerless is insane. 5-star book. I am obsessed with that book. I still think about it. I still think of the feelings that it gave me, just of the giddiness, and literally listening to the audiobook while I was folding my clothes. I remember just like having to fall on my bed because of how overwhelmed I was of how much I loved the book. But yeah, I am probably the most excited for that book to read for this whole month. That's probably going to be the first book that I finish, or the second. Either way, so very excited. And yeah, that concludes all the books I read in June and my July TBR. Let me know if you guys enjoy these sit down videos and leave below in the comments any future sit down videos you want to see. Leave below your most anticipated books for July. I would love to have some book recommendations. Follow me on all my socials, linked to my link tree in the description. I am not super active on my socials right now. I'm probably more active on here and Goodreads than anything. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you hopefully in my next video. Bye!